Hello, everyone, and welcome to the TechVB podcast. We talk tech accessibility and life. So get comfy and enjoy the podcast. Hello, friends. Episode number 7, and another interview this time. And we are talking with Hans Jørgen Wiberg. I hope that's the correct pronunciation. I mean, it probably is not the way to pronounce it, but that's how my screen reader does pronounce it. So, sorry, Hans, that is wrong pronunciation. So, Hans is a founder of Be My Eyes app. It's quite a famous app. For those who don't know what that app is, basically it is an app where someone can be a volunteer and help the blind or visually impaired individuals to achieve daily tasks. So you can share the video with the volunteer, and volunteer will help you out by describing or doing something else for you. So basically that's the gist of the app. So in this podcast / interview, we just talked about this app, how it came to be, what are its features, benefits. I asked him some questions, and I got some answers, of course. And then we talked about how it all began, what's new with the app, what are the upcoming features, what can we expect from it, and way more. Before I let you in on the podcast episode, I just want to say that we are launching the social media jazz, like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And all of those channels can be found by using TechVB Society in your search. So I would really appreciate if you follow, because it's beneficial for all of us. You will able to get the latest updates and also comment on the podcast and do the suggestions, all the social media interaction stuff. So yeah, I think it's beneficial and you should follow. So yeah, that's basically it. Please enjoy the episode. Hello, Hans. Welcome to TechVB Podcast. Thanks for coming. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for coming again. So I always start my podcasts and interviews is just with the introduction, right? So I'm just curious, about, can you tell me a story about yourself, who you are as a person, and introduce yourself, basically.
Yeah.
To the crowd.
Well, this is, when you're 57 years old, it's a long story, but I'll try to do it a little shorter.
Yeah, just, summarized, I suppose,
Yeah, but
education.
Well, I live in Denmark. And I am married, and I have 2 daughters, and I am visually impaired. I am born and raised on a farm, and I was set out to become a farmer. But then when I was about 25 years old, I realized that I had this eye disease. And I also realized that it would only go one way. Even though I did like to be on the country and farming and all that, I realized that it was not a good idea because I would not be able to drive the car or the tractor or anything like that. So I decided to start all over, and I had never even thought about being anything else than taking over my parents' farm. So it was kind of a new beginning, and I started to study, and I ended up at the university studying philosophy for a few years, and then I met my wife, and she is upholsterer. She puts new fabrics on old furnitures. And we decided to make a business together where I was helping her. And then I was thinking, well, philosophy doesn't go anywhere. I can always go back. And now, 25 years later, I'm still thinking about I could take that up again. But then I started to work for the Danish Blind Association as a consultant and also as a member of the main board. And in that period, I met a lot of blind people and low vision people like myself. And in the same period, iPhone has come along, and I could see that some of the more tech savvy blind people were using iPhones and so on. And I was kind of fascinated about that. And one of them was using FaceTime or Skype when he needed some visual assistance on the distance. So, well, that's cool. And then, yeah. Some people sometimes ask me how I got this idea about Be My Eyes, and I don't really know. Suddenly it was there, and I had to do something about it. So that's kind of the very short version of my life.
That's a very good summary, nonetheless. So basically, what you're saying is that iPhone was an inspiration for you to start something with it, right?
Absolutely. And the funny thing was, I remember clearly when the iPhone came out in 2007, and I was kind of, whoa, this is not an open party for any blind person, because there's only one button, and the rest of it is a glass surface, and we cannot do anything with that. And I could see people were super excited about it, and I was just thinking, whoa, this is not good. But then I don't remember, I think it was iOS version 3 or 4, they came up with voiceover, and suddenly and this is really and all the kudos to Apple for doing this. It was a game changer for most young blind people in the world, that they were suddenly able to jump on the most innovative thing we have seen in a long time. Yeah, and I strongly believe that the only reason why, not the only reason, but Android version was kind of forced to do the same thing, because Apple had done it before. So it's really a good thing that Apple, they made the voiceover in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, smartphones are game changers because you have so much in one device, first of all, right?
Exactly.
Camera, GPS, and apps, and its entire ecosystem. And I mean, the apps themselves now are solving many problems. You can have one app for one problem, like seeing, another app for navigating, and it's just an app. It's not a separate hardware or anything else. It's just an app. And I think it's you kind of one of the earlier thinkers / founders in this regard.
That's right.
Because after that, so many attempts are made to solve different problems for blind, navigation wise, reading wise, and yours is Be My Eyes. So,
but I would like to say that this is maybe not the most important thing, but still, many of the devices that you have as in any handicap group is maybe not the most beautiful design and so on. So I really think it is for many people also important that they can use a standard device and they don't have to pay extra. It's super expensive anyway, but at least you don't have to pay extra because you cannot see or anything. And I think that's super important for the well-being of many people in this regard. So yeah.
Right. Yes, I get your point, and you're absolutely right. And with smartphones and stuff. So I suppose we're at the point where I want to know how that app came to be as what it is right now, right? So I'm just wondering where. So you have an idea, right? It came from the iPhone, and so I'm just wondering, where did you go next? So you have an idea in your mind. What do you do next? Where do you go for that?
And that's a really good question. And to be honest, I had no idea. because I'm not a tech person myself. I don't know anyone who is in the app building business. I knew it was possible to do it because I could kind of see that other apps were kind of doing some of the things that needed. So I was sitting here at home with my idea, and I was listening to the radio, and then I heard about a event in at a university here in Denmark called Startup Weekend, and where you could basically walk in from the street, and then you would get 1 minute to present an idea. And then hopefully that some of the people in the audience would like your idea and join you over the weekend, and then kind of make a minimal viable product or a concept or something that you could kind of present on the Sunday. And I was, well, what the heck, I can do that. And I went there. And I was super lucky because there was 7 other people that was intrigued by this idea. One of them is the CEO of the Be My Eyes today, and this group was super essential in the beginning to support me and the other. We supported each other about raising some money, and eventually when we did that to find some people who could actually build the app and so on. So it was from maybe not from day one, from from day 7, it was a teamwork. So yeah,
that's very cool. So you are the idea driver, I suppose. But then, I mean, it's very interesting that like you said, you're a farmer originally. That's what you want to be, and now you are a founder. You found a solution for a blind, and it's just intriguing idea where the idea that you have in your mind can be transformed into something that actually is there and working, and I mean, many people would probably believe that, oh, I am a farmer or whatever, like I'm not a developer, so thus I can't do it, right? So, but I mean, you did something very interesting where you actually went to the hackathon, as they call them, and you presented it, and it got and they got it, and I wonder, like, did it take a long time to you to actually convince them about it, or just say yes, it's a brilliant idea? How did they?
Well, I can tell you exactly how long it took, because I remember clearly that the timing of those 1 minute was super sharp. So when you hit the 59 second, then the moderator simply started yelling and clapping and so on. And then if you were finished or not didn't matter. So I can tell you it took exactly 59 seconds to convince people. But right. I had rehearsed my little speech over and over, so I knew I would be done by by the time.
Practice,
and I think this is kind of important, because Be My Eyes is such a simple and easy to understand concept, so you really can explain it in basically 20 seconds, and if you have a minute you have more than enough. And I think the people were hooked on it from the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, like, how many people or sighted people are thinking about visual impairment and blindness? Not too many, probably. And once you offer a clear solution with the clear goals in mind and stuff like that, I would imagine, because it's kind of, it makes sense, like, that you want to use a camera to show for the blind people what to do about it. And I mean, your idea, I suppose, made sense a lot of the time, and it still does now. All right then.
There's 2 sides to that, because of course, if you are a blind person and you live on your own, then even no matter how good you are at being blind, sometimes it will be necessary, or at least convenient, to have a pair of eyes to see something, maybe only for 20 seconds. And the blind people, of course, understand that. But also the volunteers, And I think that's part of our success on the volunteer side, that, oh, now I can finally use my too expensive phone for something useful, and it's super, super easy. This is basically the only volunteering you can do while you're lying on your couch. And I think that's also kind of appealing to a lot of volunteers, that this is a super easy and convenient way to be a volunteer.
Makes sense. I mean, I suppose, in generally, people are very helpful and they like to help, and I think it's a great option to do it comfortably, safely, you don't have to risk anything, and pair of eyes, can be very helpful. Like, I can just have a smartphone, I can help someone, which is great. I was reading an article, I think, or somewhere, that you have lots of volunteers, right? Like, what's the number? You can tell me, like, how many volunteers do you have and how many users do you have?
Thank you for asking. We have
no worries. I have more questions.
Almost 300,000 blind and low vision people signed up, and we have 4.5 million volunteers, and we can connect people in 185 different languages, which I think is pretty amazing. On the team combined, I think we speak 5 or 6 different languages, but then there's 179 other languages that we don't speak, and countries that we have barely heard of, where they are using our app, and this is just for me, as a farmer boy from the southern part of Denmark, it's pretty amazing to think about that this super, super simple idea has spread to the all over the world, to any country, and in any language. This is for me personally one of the biggest things that I'm so happy about.
I mean, you should, because I suppose you're getting a lot of stories and a lot of feedback. I suppose that tells you how useful that is, because I'm sure that many people are using this app not for all, like, I suppose you can find friends as well, you call for one thing and you just talk about other thing, just because it's, it's so easy to connect, I think.
One example, the other day I spoke to a person who was using Be My Eyes, and he told me that he moved to a new apartment, and his family had been super, super helpful in the beginning. So he got to know the apartment, but then of course the family go home, and then when you are in a completely new apartment, where is this and where is that, and he was using Be My Eyes simply to get to know some of the stuff in his apartment and so on, and he was so happy that he didn't have to call his family again and again to explain something or to show him something. Then he could just nice and quietly, and exactly when he needed it, he could make a Be My Eyes call, and they could tell him some of the things that he needed to know or be refreshed on. Also, if you get a new microwave, there's 10,000 buttons, and you learn to use 5 of them, but then there's the other function that you that would be kind of cool if I could use some of those functions as well. But you cannot remember if someone explains it to you, and 3 months later you need to make popcorn, and there's one specific button for that. But where is that? And now you can just make a 20-second Be My Eyes call, and then you know where that button is. And that's
Makes
super
sense.
Convenient for many people.
Yeah, I mean, the number alone, 4 million, right? So you have more than enough, volunteers to help you. I mean, 3,000 versus 4 million, so it's plenty. That's for damn sure. It's way more.
300,000 blind.
300,000, and 4 million volunteers. That's a lot.
It is. It's a lot.
So, I mean, and you know what? I think because it's free, you're not risking anything. Like, you can call one user. If he doesn't know, you can call another one, And he may help you. And I mean, it's great because Could be inside, it could be outside, right? So that's it, right? How do you explain to someone what your app does? I know, like, we're using camera, but let's say how would you explain this? Like, what you're trying to solve? Basically, what problems? I mean, I know we talked about helping the blind, but what's your take on it, right? How would you say it? If kind of to people who are thinking about this, right?
The very shortest version I have is that we crowdsource eyesight, but a little longer. I really like to explain it by making a example, and my best example is that you are in your kitchen as a blind person and you need to turn on the oven, but you're not quite sure that you have hit the 250 degrees, and you simply just want to make sure. And then you take out the phone and you turn on Be My Eyes and you hit the button that says connect to first available volunteer. And then within 10, 20 seconds, you will have a volunteer, and the volunteer will say, hey, my name is Brian, what can I do for you? And then you will say, oh, I need to turn on my oven, and need to be sure I hit the 250. Can you tell me if it is? You need to turn a little more to the right. Is that right? Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. And that's it.
Quick and easy transaction, yeah. Because it's open source, right?
It is,
as I say. It's free.
So,
That's great. That's great. Okay. I mean, so what's your favorite feature of Be My Eyes? Do you have anything that you really like and proud of delivering, or in general?
Well, I'm most proud that we can actually do this. That we have managed to get so many volunteers who are super excited about this. And the important thing to understand is that every time you make a call, you will never ever get a person who is too busy to help you or something like that, because the only reason why people sign up is they want to help you, and the only reason why they answer exactly your call is because they have time to do it. So you should never hesitate to make a call, because you will never be disturbing someone. It might be if you have a task that takes an hour, then you might run into something. But if if it is a normal call that is like 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, then you will absolutely get a volunteer who is super happy to help you. So that's I think that's the most important thing. The second thing is that we have also partnered up with companies. So you can, for instance, you can call Microsoft and you can call Google directly, and they also get the video part. So if you have issues with one of their services or products, you can call them directly using Be My Eyes. And the good thing is that they know it's a blind person when you are using Be My Eyes to call them. So they make sure that the right, I don't know, they might have 10 or 20 people in the organization who knows about what products and what issues blind people have with their technology. So they route those calls to the exact right people. So it's way easier for Google and Microsoft and Procter & Gamble and the other to make a good support for their blind customers. And it is not as frustrating as if you call support via your normal phone, because then the first thing they will ask you, okay, what's on the screen now? I don't know. It doesn't say anything. That's why I'm calling you. But what can we do? I cannot see your screen and so on. But with the Be My Eyes, specialized help, as we call it, they can actually see the screen, because you can show them what's on the screen. So that's also, and that's also our business model, because those companies, they are paying Be My Eyes a monthly subscription to be on the Be My Eyes platform. So you can say we help them help their blind customers, and this is why we can make Be My Eyes a free service worldwide 24/7. So that's also super important, and I'm really proud that that's not my idea. Unfortunately, that's one of my colleagues who came up with this idea, but I'm proud of it anyway.
Yes.
So no.
Yeah, it's interesting business model. I was about to ask you about that because they are paying for that, and because they want to be there, because it's good for them and good for you. So that's amazing.
We have a kind of a slogan within Be My Eyes that is I think it was my CEO who found it on a postcard, and it says, everybody wins only when nobody loses, and that is you can laugh at it, and it is kind of funny, but it is also our philosophy, so to speak, that we try to make so everybody wins, and even those who are paying are super happy about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay, I think. So we believe that everybody wins here.
I suppose you are correct, and I really do believe that because, well, as you said, you are offering direct support. You don't have to go through phone options. If you want to press class 1, 3, 4 and wait for... No. Like, you're directly bypassing that. And I'm just surprised how Microsoft hasn't made it themselves. But, I mean, they're using your service, which is grand, because they're using your platform to deliver that.
Yeah, but also, I mean, we hope that we can turn specialized help into yellow pages for blind people, and because it can be really difficult to find a phone number for support, maybe not for Google and Microsoft, but for many countries, it's hidden way down on their website because they don't really want too many to call them.
Yes, I know.
And especially not blind people, because they know it's really difficult to do the support. But when they know it's a blind person and they can make sure that the right person's at the support center or system, whatever they are using, is getting the call, then it is a whole different story, and we get some wonderful feedback from our specialized help partners there. So but
right,
wonderful.
Cool. Yeah, as you said, you're bypassing that. They're filtering out straight away. You know, I kind of thought of one idea, right? Imagine this. Maybe it's not going to be a feature or not, but imagine this, right? You have a Be My Eyes. You create a little stamp where a website could use that, and you could scan a QR code which opens their Be My Eyes app and that company to call. Imagine that. I just thought of that. So let's say you're browsing through Microsoft or Google, and because they're big companies, in the contact section, you say, Be My Eyes thing. You click, you open your camera, point your camera into a QR code, and it directly opens that. That would be so cool, actually.
Yeah.
You know? And how many companies do you have, like, on the specialized help? I know you have Google.
I don't really recall the number, and it's also kind of it's depends on what country you are in, because the companies, of course, they decide what countries they want to be available in, and also what language they can support. But we do have, especially in the US, we have quite a number of different companies on board. And one of them I have mentioned Google and Microsoft, maybe because these are the one that are the biggest and well known. But one of the things that I'm super excited about is that we have Accessible Pharmacy, which is a online pharmacy founded and run by a blind person. And the cool thing is that right now that we are here in 2021 in February or in March, and we still are in COVID, and you can order a COVID test. and they will ship it by mail. And when you get it, they will guide you to make sure you take the test in the right way and get it back into the package and so on, and you ship it back, and they will make sure you get the result, and they will kind of remotely hold your hand all the way, and I just think this is super cool that we are able to kind of help this accessible pharmacy be even more accessible.
I mean, one good thing about your app, right, is I think especially now, is that we hear the thing called remote, everything remote, and your app is all about remote, right? So I think it's just it's very cool because, as you say, companies can do it and help, volunteers can help, and I'm wondering, like, is there a feature? Like, what features would you like? Do you have anything in mind, for example, for your app that you would like to add? Maybe that's not there yet, So basically,
well,
what's the...
we have it's not completely rolled out, but we are working and testing something we call Be My Eyes for Work, which I'm super excited about a lot of things, but
Right.
this is I'm also super excited about, and that is if let's say you are working in a workplace with like 100 employees, and you're the only blind person, and you are in this office, and eventually you will run into, no matter how many smart tools and screen readers you have, you will run into something where you need a pair of eyes. And the most likely thing you do is that you will ask your colleague sitting next to you, can you please take a look here? And the colleague will happily do it. But then one day you have 3 or 4 requests like that, or maybe even more, and you can kind of feel, and you don't really like to ask the same person, but it's also kind of awkward to walk across the office and ask someone else. And then, but then with the Be My Eyes for Work, you can just press one button, and then we will send out a notification to maybe 10 or 15 or 20 of your colleagues. And the first one, it will be just like a normal Be My Eyes call. The first one of your colleagues to answer will kind of help you. In this way, none of the information that you have on your screen will ever leave the company. This is also super important. That also for your the workplace that you're working, that they can really be sure that you get the help you need, but and no information is leaving the company at all. So and this will be a way where we add a third button to your Be My Eyes app that will say Be My Eyes for Work, and there's some underlying features in this function as well. But we hope that we can kind of help blind people who has a job to stay in that job, because they will be more efficient, and I even think that it will be over time you will find the exact 10 or 15 people who are good at helping you and willing to help you and have the time to help you, and so everybody can have a great day, and suddenly you are not a strange person in the canteen. Now you have 10 or 15 or 20 colleagues who knows you because they speak to you on a daily basis, and they help you, and they know what you're working on, and so on. So I think it will be a really convenient and also a feature that will kind of tie people together, and maybe even make you the hero of the working place, because they actually know what you're doing, and that you are not a dangerous blind person.
That's wow, that's very cool. Because well, I suppose, when I think about this feature, is one thing comes to mind is basically you getting a right help from right people. Because you don't have to call just a volunteer because he have no clue what you're doing. What you're calling is to your company.
Yeah.
And I suppose, it works from two sides in a way because it helps you to be more independent in the company.
Yeah.
And it also, in my mind, helps assure the employee that you can get help because of that app. So I think it's cool. And I'm just wondering like how it works, like in a way that if I have 15 people to choose from in the companies, do all 15 people get a call, or is it some kind of a priority list? I'm just wondering in the background how this works.
Well,
if you know.
we can set it up in different ways. You can have one group so it calls all, but you can also make subgroups. You can see, okay, I need to talk to the people in finance, or I need to talk to the leader group, or I need to talk to people in the same office where I am now, or so you can make all kind of subgroups that you can tap into. So it's super flexible.
Right. So you are kind of making categorized help. So you can ask from technical point, or you can ask from some other people,
Yeah, and the good thing, because this is also about having trust. So this is something that you will do together with your boss, and so he kind of approved that yes, you have my permission to send notification to these people. This guy over here is super busy, so we will not put him on the list, and other things like that. And they will be able to kind of move people on and off the list together with you, of course. And that's why I believe that over time you will kind of end up with the perfect group, because I think some of the colleagues will say, "Oh, I'm super happy to help you," but this person never has time or never answers, or even they have a good intention. We know that, and some other people say, "Yeah, I can do that," and then suddenly they see this as kind of interesting, or they find you to be a nice guy, or so they turn out to be really helpful. So over time, people will find the exact right group to do this. So.
Yeah, I mean, for a blind, what I'm kind of thinking from my point, because I'm visually impaired myself, and I'm kind of imagining myself using this app, and I'm thinking, you will know a lot of colleagues, that kind of way. Because, for example, what problem I'm encountering is that sometimes, for example, that I want to talk with people, but I just don't know where they are, or I don't know whether they are close to me or not. And once you have a kind of way to call them, you could call them for one reason and then just could say, "Oh, let's go to lunch." Yeah, sure, why not?
Exactly,
Because if I want to ask Tom for lunch, I have to know where he is, right? And if it's a big area, I just don't know maybe exactly where he works, or is it. And sometimes I'm finding problems where I want to talk to the people, but I don't know where they are. And sometimes people don't know how to kind of get to me, Maybe they want to help, right? But they just don't know how to get to me. Maybe I'm busy, or maybe maybe what I'm saying. So basically you're solving a communication issue.
Yeah. And you can also, speaking of lunch, you can make a group that take me to lunch group. Because
of course you can,
I mean,
yes.
this would be kind of handy, so you don't have to rely on the same person again and again, and you could just kind of ask 10 people, and the first one to kind of pick up will take you to lunch, and everybody would kind of know the game, and so this is, and also we haven't spoke about this, but now that everybody is working from home. If you are a blind person sitting home alone and you run into some issue where you need a pair of eyes, and you're not supposed to call someone outside the company, then what can you do? But with Be My Eyes for Work, you can rely on, or you can count on your colleagues, and you can get the help right away, no matter where in the world they are sitting. And this is also super convenient, and I hope that this will help people stay in job. And I also when this become more known, I hope that it will be something that a blind person can kind of bring to the table in a job interview and so on. So that's yeah.
Yeah, I think I know how your model works now. I have a suspicion how it works, and it's brilliant. And I suppose it's when I'm thinking about this, I think it's a very good deal for companies because all companies want to provide their working environment. No matter who you are, they always say we are equal rights employer. Well, now you have a way to prove this. You know what I mean? Be my eyes. Well, look, it's free. There is no excuses for you not to implement that. And I think
Be my eyes for work will be a paid thing
for them, for the company, but not for the user themselves.
No, not for the user. No.
Yeah, so that's why you like the brilliance of the business model, and I'm familiar because I know other developers are using this with beacons and stuff. They provide beacons for the companies, then they pay for them, and they bypass that information from the beacons to the user who is blind, so it doesn't cost him anything.
Yeah.
And they're helping that way. So it's the same way that you do, which is cool. Yeah. I thought about one feature where you say, okay, what's for lunch? You call someone who's working in a cafeteria rather than waiting in a queue, talking via crowd,
Yeah.
Because noise is, for me personally, like sometimes, what the problem is? Sometimes I want to go and order something. And the problem is I don't know what's there, and sometimes I don't know whether the person is talking to me or someone else, So you can actually, say in a company, say, do you mind if I call you 25 minutes before my break and you can tell me what's there, So I think it's lots of good things can be solved.
Yeah.
Naturally, though, I want to ask you one question, and I'm sure you know what's IRA, right?
Yes.
It's a paid service, right? So how do you would compare yourselves with them, or what's your opinion on this, and what can you say about that?
Well, first of all, I think they have a wonderful service, and the difference between this might be a little unfair because they cannot say anything and I can say whatever I want, but I'll try to be fair. But Be My Eyes is, of course, a free and unlimited service. It's also, you get a volunteer. When you are using IRA, you have to pay, and you get a trained agent. And of course, a trained agent who has taken 100 or maybe thousands of calls will, of course, be really, really good at helping you and kind of maybe even know what you're asking before you are asking. But it is it's a different approach to help. But in a way, we are basically doing the same. But there's also a huge difference because we are a free and volunteer driven service, and they have paid agents.
Yeah, I get your point. But when I thought about Be My Eyes for work, right? When you think about it, right, it will be as good probably as IRA is because they're paying for their services and you getting the direct help that they know you how to give. Like if I'm working with my company, it would be not much different to call IRA or Be My Eyes in a way, because if I'm getting a help from my my friend, I better call my friend, than IRA agent.
Yeah.
Because he has more knowledge than they do.
Well,
unless they have a similar service, like I don't think they do IRA for work. Maybe they do, I'm not sure. But either way, what I'm saying is for the listeners is you would not be disadvantaged because it's free, because you're getting a specialized help that doesn't cost you anything. So I'm pitching your services, Hans there.
Well, I strongly encourage everybody to try all the options, also IRA, and find out what is working for you. And if you have the money and you need be my Ira, I mean, then I'm totally fine with that. And I know for certain that we have users who are using both services, because sometimes they need an agent and sometimes they just want to have a volunteer and don't think about how long time it takes. And that's also perfectly fine with me. So no problem. Try it out and find out what works for you. When we believe strongly in Be My Eyes for work, it's because we think it is, for many workplaces, it's super important that none of their information leaves the place. And I know that I will have all kind of NDAs, and they're not. But for some workplaces, that's simply not enough. They want to make sure that none of the information is kind of leaving the company. And depends on what kind of company you work in. But I can assure you that some of the bigger tech companies, they would kind of completely freak out if you call outside the company to and ask about things that are company related. So we believe it's a good thing for many employees and employers to keep things within the company.
Of course, it's private data. Nobody wants to share that.
Yeah. In other company, no big deal. And also super.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, would you not? I better have privacy than done. I always better have privacy than done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
either way, it's a better option to do. Yeah, it's cool. I'm kind of. I want to see that implemented. To be honest, like in a bigger organizations, I know it'll probably take some time to do that. But I think like once companies set example, of implementing this, other want to follow.
Yeah. We strongly believe that.
I think
the good thing about
the
blind people, they often talk to each other and tell each other about technology. I haven't come across many other people who are so what do you call it? Excited about new devices than the blind community.
Geeky community
and new services and so on. So I'm sure if we can hit it right, then the word will spread.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of users, all right, but what I'm really excited is about Be My Eyes for work, because it really now depends on the companies, like whether they choose to implement it or not, and I hope it will. I mean, like things like Apple. If Apple is implementing that, 55% of companies, will follow, because that's how it works.
That's right. Yeah.
When Apple removes a headphone jack, guess what? Everyone else is removing a headphone jack.
That's right. Yeah.
So, if someone works in Apple, please convince them to do that, because it's free and it works. So, I'm wondering, like, what do you do daily as a founder of the app, right? So you said you're not a programmer, and I'm sure you have other duties. So what do you do from day to day?
Well, I get about 1,000 to 1,200 emails a month. So,
right.
And this is it sounds like a big burden, but it's not, because many of them are super positive. People telling, "Oh, I had my first call and it was great," and other people's are, of course, complaining about poor connection or something is wrong, and all that. So we have to deal with that as well. But the most of the calls or emails are from people who are super happy about the service, and I get the great honor of opening these emails and reply back and so on. So that's what I do a lot, and then I sometimes gets interviewed, and of course I talk to my developers and the CEO and see how things is going and so on. And we are one of the focus thing right now is to have more companies become specialized health partners. because that is, as I mentioned, our business model. So that's how we are trying to make it into a sustainable business, which we certainly hope. We're not quite there yet, but we are getting closer. So.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're doing the right job, obviously. I mean, it's important. It's just, I think, as I said, even though I'm not, I don't have any data, but usually I think when someone sets a good example, others are following that, So once that feature is, announced, did you announce that Be My Eyes for Work feature or not yet?
Well, it's there. But we haven't done a big deal of it because we are kind of rolling it out slowly.
Right.
So if you know someone who is interested, send them my way, and then we will absolutely
Right.
look into it and set it up and so on. And also we are talking to some blindness organizations about having it in their organizations, because that would be a perfect kind of testing ground, and I know they will give us their honest opinion, which
Right,
can
of
be
course you
pretty
need
tough
that.
sometimes, but that's also necessary.
Yeah.
So we are kind of rolling it out slowly, you can say.
All right, that's good. Okay, so basically, I'm wondering, like, from my perspective as a user, I'm kind of, I'm sure you can confirm it because you got a lot of emails. So I'm just wondering what's the experience there. Basically, I'm kind of uncomfortable, at the start. So, like to call a total stranger and get help, and what's the feedback from this perspective? I think you mentioned earlier a bit, but I just want to get a bit wider how people are reacting to this.
Yeah.
What their expectations are to start, that kind of stuff.
It's a really good question, and the answer is
It's a
that
valid one as well.
we don't we don't really know. We can see that quite a few people download the app and never makes a call, and some makes one call and then kind of go silent. And we've been thinking about this, and recently we have looked into it and tried to do some interviews with those people and so on. And it turns out that people like me, who are not completely blind and not really needed that much, they like to kind of know what it is and get to know it and kind of have it just in case I
Right.
will need it one day. and so and also, as you kind of imply there, the thing about calling a stranger can be, you really need to kind of pull yourself together to do that.
That's true,
But
yes.
the funny thing is that when you have done it, that was easy, and the person was super nice and helpful, and I can do this again. So it's for many times it's just a matter of getting the first call done, and then you're kind of used to it and so on. But of course, if you are a shy person and so on, and I completely acknowledge that, and it can be a burden and so on. So that's also something we're thinking about, how we can make that a little easier for people.
I have one idea for you to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this: I'm a volunteer, and what if I can tag the things I'm good at? And once you give me a help, I say, okay, because like, what do you want? You choose from the main category what you want to help for, whether that's cooking, IT, walking. And if you would contact people who have tagged their skills, that would be a good idea. We need to filter it out even a bit. Like when you create an account, you tag it. I'm just wondering how valuable would that be?
Basically, it's a really good idea, and I think it would be helpful in many situations. It would also make it a little more not a whole lot, but a little more complicated to kind of start a call, because then you have to kind of go into this list. And trust me, the list would be pretty long, because we have so many different hobbies and skills and technologies and musicians and handcraft, and I don't know what. It can be a really long list where you have to kind of find the right thing. And our thinking so far has been that, and this is also absolutely our experience, that our blind users, they know exactly what they are doing. They just need a pair of eyes to see something for 2, 3, 4 minutes. Sometimes it can be a real long call, but nevertheless, the most of the calls are super short, because you are doing something and then you run into something. I need to see the temperature here or whatever. And then you get that done, and then you are on your own again and doing fine. So our experience is that our users are super good at being blind people, or they are learning it fast and so on. So they don't really need the skills. They just need the eyes of the volunteers. And also, if you are a person, you have an issue with your computer, and then you run into a programmer, and the programmer will say, okay, tap down 4 times and hit enter, and you'll do that, and you have no clue what you're doing. You will not learn anything from it, but you will get your problem solved. But the day after, you might have the same problem. And then if you have someone who has no clue about computer, the person will say, okay, now on the screen it says, and then you will learn all the different options and so on, and you will learn that, okay, I have to tap down 4 times and hit enter, but then you will at least know what you're doing the next day. So sometimes it's not a good idea to have a pro computer person helping you, because you will maybe not learn a whole lot from the experience.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I just thought about filtering options, because sometimes the person could not help you at all. Like, you couldn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
sometimes it's probably...
I get your point, and in some situations it will be perfectly fine to have skills, especially maybe in cooking or something like that. It will be nice, because or in makeup or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, if I call a guy about makeup, funny.
Don't judge guys.
Okay, I'm just saying, right? I mean, I'm just kind of thinking, because Be My Eyes for work will solve that issue, because it's categorized, right?
Yeah.
And
but
I'm just
only
saying, like,
in your workplace, of course. Yeah.
Of course, it's in workplace. I'm just wondering, like, it would be very kind of useful to have that kind of feature in the volunteering side, or at least ability to filter out something.
You must remember that a lot of our users are maybe new to technology, so we really do a lot to keep it super, super simple. And we don't want to make it. We even got an award for the most simple interface, which I'm super proud about. And we kind of have that in mind, that we don't want to make 10 options on the homepage. So that's also part of it. And also that when you have 185 different languages, you need to keep it easy to understand, because you need to translate and all that.
It seems simple, but in practice it requires more implementation.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's right.
Yeah, it's a list with. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I kind of didn't thought about languages, but like, you get my perspective, right? Where you kind of want. Like, if I have no clue about cooking, why would you, what I'm saying? So it just makes it easier to do that, That's just that's kind of my idea about this. That's cool. Right, so you have when I think about this, right? You have lots of experience in this regard. You know what users want and how do you operate. Like, let's say I want to make an app like this. What do you think should I do? Even if I'm not a coder, because I know people have ideas, plenty. So based on your knowledge that you have right now, can you advise anyone how to approach this and whether it's even possible, it's doing and stuff like that? I'm not saying direct competitor of your app, whatever. No, what I'm saying is in general, right?
Yeah.
Because people have lots of ideas.
Well, one of the also wonderful parts of my job is that between the emails, there are also emails from people like myself who has an idea, and they can see that that we have done this with Be My Eyes, so they are asking if I can give them any advice. And normally I don't give advice because I mean I rather say what I have been doing and how it worked for me, and then they can take out their own advice from that. And but when I give advice, the advice that I give is get a team around the idea, because I can for sure say that without my team, which of course has changed over the years, but there would not have been any Be My Eyes at all. So get other persons into your idea. Be generous with your idea. And if it is a good idea, they will jump on the journey, and you will for sure have days where you badly need your team.
Yes, you can't do everything on your own.
Yeah.
You know?
And and it is way more fun to have someone to share the victory with than do it on your own. So at least that's how I feel about it. So my advice is always get a team around your ideas.
Well, but I suppose when you're saying get a team, you kind of have to get ideas started though first. You know, you can't get a team without an idea, right? So
you can take your idea to, like I did, to this startup weekend, and then get these people, and some of them are good at raising money, and somebody knows a cousin who is a coder who can help you make a prototype, and somebody else knows someone in the industry that can help you open some doors and so on. Things that you are not able to do on your own, and you can have people who are working on one side of the project and people who are working on other side of the project and so on.
I suppose you're right, because people sometimes just don't have those ideas because they never lived that kind of life. Makes sense, you know. So that's just yeah. I mean, yeah, having a hackathon and offering the ideas, it's interesting. I have to try it myself though. I have to look around on Google. Maybe someone takes the idea. You never know. I mean, it's a good thing because it's free for you to try it, right? You didn't pay anything to attend the hackathon or whatever that is, you know. So
well, it costed what would that be, like $45-50 or something like that. But then there was free beer all weekend. So I was thinking, what the hell? I can do that.
There you go. There we go. Found the pros.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm just wondering then, did you ever try to use your servers for yourself? Right?
Oh yes.
So, how did that get out? Did you get out?
In the beginning, I was the only user, so
right. So course, someone has tested, right?
And I have been one of the funniest calls that I made was I had all my socks were mixed up, and I was had laid them out on the table, and I made a call to Be My Eyes, and then it was the father of one of my colleagues who answered the call. That was
right.
That was cool. So funny. It's because I mean we have almost 40,000 volunteers in Denmark, and that's
That's plenty.
So that was 1 out of 40,000, and that was Alex's father. I was there was I didn't say that I was the founder, of course. I just can you help me with this? And then when we had done it, I said, actually, my son is working for Be My Eyes. And I thought, oh, is that right? And then I had to kind of reveal that I was the founder, and then we started laughing there. So that was really funny.
That's cool. But overall, you were satisfied, right, with the results and how overall it went. How long? I think you said it's only like how long it usually takes to get to the volunteer. I'm not sure if you have the data or not, but it's probably quick because 4 million is a lot.
Yeah, it's normally we say that within 10 to 15 seconds, I think 90% of the calls are answered within 15 seconds. But of course, sometimes it takes longer because we have no clue what our volunteers are doing. So when you make a call, we send out a notification to 20 people. And some is working, and some is sleeping, and some is driving, and someone is kissing his wife, but most likely 1 or 2 or 3 of those 20 will swipe yes, and the first one to do that. But sometimes all 20 are doing something else, and then we wait. I don't remember 20 seconds or something, and then we ping another 20 people, and then of course suddenly you have been waiting half a minute or something like that. But most calls are super fast. So.
Well, that makes sense. It's I like the idea for 20 people, then 20 people, then 20. You don't ping anyone. All 4 of 300,000. That's a smart approach, I suppose, right?
But after I think when we have done that 3 times or something, we stop with it because then we believe something else is wrong, and that can be some internet glitch or something in the app or. Bad connection or something like that, because you can you can kind of start you can make the request even if you have basically no internet connection, but you cannot establish the video call without a pretty good internet connection. So sometimes when you are on a really poor connection, you can kind of make the request, but we cannot establish the call because that takes more bandwidth. So that's also some, especially in some countries where or if you are in a area where there's not that much coverage and so on, and you're trying to do it on your data plan, it can be difficult and yeah. So.
Well, yeah, I'm just kind of thought about the part of like it must be heavy on resources, video and stuff. You have a lot of users, you have a lot of people calling at the same time, and I suppose it kind of requires a bit of backend, like kind of bit of server power to run that smoothly, I suppose.
Yeah, but server power these days is something that you kind of rent.
Yes,
and I don't even know where the servers are. There might be some
it's in the cloud,
in Russia and some in the US and some in Europe, and I think we can kind of power them up on if the demand is rising. We can hit another server, or I don't know how it works, but something like that. So it's not something that we have in our basement. It is
I'm aware of that, but I'm just saying it requires a bit of resources.
Of course, and even you think that making a FaceTime call is free. It does have some, not a whole lot. It does have some cost to it per minute. So we do have expenses when you are making a call, not a whole lot, but when a lot of people are making a lot of calls, then it adds up.
Interesting. I'm wondering, is there any interesting patterns, for example? Maybe some people are calling when there is holidays more than anything else, or a weekend. I'm just wondering, is it like, I'm not sure what kind of data you have. I'm just interested from there in general. Like, is it, for example, do users call more on the weekends than they call at weekdays or something? I'm just curious. I don't know whether that's even
I don't really think there is a lot of difference there. And you see, we have users in Arabic countries where they have another weekend than we have in the Western countries.
Yeah.
So it's and also with the time zones and so on. So it's pretty steady. We have a big chunk of users in the US. So of course, when US wakes up, we get more busy, you can say. But then there's also a bunch of volunteers waking up. So it's so we don't have the biggest. I don't know if you look at maybe Christmas morning, there might not be a whole lot, but I
what
don't know.
you got for my present? Please comment on it. What did Santa give it to me? Oh, right. I have interesting question, a bit of the future for you, and that is, imagine like this, right? You have a limited budget, and you can create whatever device. You would love that feeling, right? I get you. Okay, so you have a limited budget, and I'm wondering, what device are you creating for a blind? Imagine you have billions of dollars from Microsoft or Google or both, and I'm just wondering, what ideas do you have?
Oh, you mean if I had unlimited budgets?
Exactly, I think, unlimited budget.
Yeah.
So imagine companies are funding you.
Say I had limited budget, and so I know that
feeling.
No.
So, right. Gotcha.
Unlimited budget.
Yes. So what are you creating? So I'm wondering, what are your ideas for the future? You can create 1 or 2 devices, no problem. I just want to get out your ideas. What would you think would be very cool?
You see, I'm a little hesitant to say something because I remember Henry Ford saying that if you ask the people what they want, they just want faster horses. So maybe even I think I'm super smart, but I'm also 57. It's but I can tell you what. Sorry about the language. What pisses me off sometimes.
Right.
We are helping a lot of people turning on their washing machine, and I think it is almost shameful for the companies that they could spend $1 on each washing machine and they could make them accessible.
Right. Yes.
And it is just completely nonsense that they are not doing that. I mean, this is ridiculous, and it is so. I mean, you have the temperature, you have the rotation, and then you have like I don't know, 10 different programs. It is so few things that you need to say, and I know what you mean. So I don't think I would spend the whole budget on that, but I think it is one of the things that, and I mean, in these days, everybody is watching, and I mean, we have so many calls about turning on washing machines.
Wow,
and that is plain stupid. Sorry, I didn't say that, but it is.
Yeah, I mean, but it's nonsense. Of course, it is nonsense.
And you pay what in Denmark? It's what would that be? That would be $700, $800, $900 for a washing machine. I mean, and you can get cheaper. You can get some, but the expensive one, where you can actually go in on an app and control your washing machine, then you are maybe plus $1,000 for a washing machine. And we know, and this is also why Be My Eyes is free. We know that most blind people, no matter what country they live in, they will be in the lower income end of the population. So that's why we decided that Be My Eyes should be free, because we know that our users don't have that much money, and accessibility is also financial accessibility. So it doesn't matter that you can get a accessible product if you cannot afford it, because then you cannot get it. And this is you could I get fired up something.
Oh no, that's grand. It's what you're saying is absolutely makes sense. Braille displays cost thousands. Right? Machines with apps cost thousands. So, I mean, I often hear companies complaining, "Oh no, it's too expensive to implement. We never heard of this." But you know what? I think if the companies educate themselves a little bit more, I think it doesn't cost any extra once you start from the beginning, right? I think that's the case, to be honest. Particularly with the services. Hardware may be different, not sure, but services, apps and stuff like that, they have features that make it easy to make them accessible. But yet, still there are issues. Yeah. So I think it's an education issue, to be honest. That's my kind of...
And also sometimes you realize that some of the features are useful also for people who are maybe not very low vision, but have some vision issues and so on. You can get bold text on your iPhone, and that's super convenient for a lot of people. And especially if you are a little more than 50 years old, then it looks really beautiful. If you and I mean, it's and it's not made for. It's made for people who need bigger fonts and so on. But it's super convenient for a lot of people who does not consider themselves to be anywhere visually impaired.
Yeah, I got what you mean. Is basically create features that are useful for both, right?
Yeah. I mean, audiobooks. When I was a child, my grandmother was reading audiobooks, and that was something that only blind people would do. Nobody else would do that. But now you have audiobooks all over. My whole family is listening to audiobooks, and it is super convenient when you're driving and running and whatever you're doing. Many people has an audiobook in the ears, and that was something that was made for blind people, and now everybody is using it. So
yeah, that's true. Like, for example, I have another point to say actually in this regard. For example, when you going in a bus, it's so useful when someone pronounces what is the next stop. You can you can just chill out. You don't have to look where you're going, and that's useful for both people, right? It's also useful when you have a GPS. It's useful because not only the blind people don't know where to go. Sighted people have no clue where to go.
That's right.
Although it's a bit problematic to use navigation apps nowadays. To be honest, I wonder, do many blind, like Be My Eyes calls are related to how to get in where is McDonald's, for example? Maybe you're somewhere near enough, but you can, ask for someone to comment. I suppose it happens quite often, I would say.
Yes, especially locating. I think if you have decided to go to a McDonald's, you will most likely kind of know where it is and how to get there and so on. Maybe the last 50 feet you need to cross some parking place or whatever. But then when you get in there, especially now in COVID times, if you're not together with someone, you really don't want to bump into the queue or something like that. And people are absolutely using Be My Eyes for that, and also to kind of before they get their stuff and see, okay, I can actually also afterwards find a place to sit or something like that, and even read the menu, or maybe McDonald's is not the most complicated menu, but nevertheless, you would like to know the price at least, and so on. So absolutely.
There you go. Look, McDonald's could actually implement your app. If someone comes in, you just say, "Okay, welcome."
Yeah.
Someone would know based on Bluetooth that you are visually impaired. Like if two Be My Eyes apps are connected like via Bluetooth or somehow, so if one Be My Eyes app knows that you are around or close to it, you know that you're visually impaired. You don't have to say anything. That would be brilliant.
Be pretty cool. There might be some GDPR implications here. I don't know,
Who
but
cares?
the idea is good. And another thing, when you mentioned GPS, I don't know how it is right, but I believe that the area or the distance or how precise you can say where you are is getting more and more precise. And I believe that because Google and Apple, they in their system, they have the information about every street and pavement in the whole world. For every 15 minutes, someone has been walking there. So we could, if it was possible, we could make a live updated GPS. So if someone parks a car and people start to walk around it within 15 minutes, you could get directions to walk around this car and so on. Which I think that would be pretty cool. I don't think it's legal or anything, but it would be within the technology to do that. Which I'm pretty fascinated about how often things I was thinking about this because when you are driving and you are using Google Maps, if there is a traffic on the road, then the road on the GPS will turn red. So you can, and before you even get to the queue on the road, you can see that further ahead there is a part of the road that has now turned red. So you can decide, okay, I can take a coffee break, or I can take another route, or something like that. And that is just because they know how fast their phones are moving on the road. So they do track this, and
of course they do.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can share your location right now, even live if you want to. Like, there are apps that allows you to follow one friend where he's right now. So imagine that I just made up a name for you. We're called Nearby Help, where if someone is if someone is close to another user, you can click a button to ask help. Then he will know exactly where you are. Or if you are approaching the service which has Be My Eyes implemented, he or she will know that you're blind and visually impaired, and you don't have to be so awkward about it. As trust me, I really do hate explaining myself all the time. Sometimes, for example, I'm visually impaired, so it's not always noticeable that I'm visually impaired. Because I can make eye contact sometimes and stuff. And because of that, they don't know that I'm visually impaired. And then I have to say all the shebang, oh, I'm visually impaired, I can see only 1%, so therefore I'm blind. So la 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 la.
Yeah. That's
so right. If that could be, like, if you could use that, great. I just made up that idea and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. You see, we have stayed away from Be My Eyes is anonymous. So you don't have to say your name or where you live or anything. We don't care what kind of religion or political views you have or who you sleep with or anything. It is absolutely anonymous. And connecting people in the real world is another game. And especially if you are a worldwide app. A good friend of mine he's actually completely blind. He is working here in Denmark and has made an app called Move United, where you as a blind person can find someone to walk or run or tandem bike with, as a sighted running mate. And that is super, super cool. He has asked me to be on his board. I'm super proud of that. They rolled out. They had a kind of a rough time because of COVID, where nobody wants to meet people they don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem, right?
But even though they are working on, and it's working super, super good, and people are finding running mates, and it can be, of course, for the the blind person a convenient thing that they don't have to rely on the same persons again and again. And for many of those volunteers, it's also a super good experience and other people might even also want to have someone to run together with. Maybe they don't really have any, and this is a opportunity to do that. And also for people like myself, it is always good that you are supposed to do it together with someone, because then you you have a bigger tendency of getting it done. If you are lying on your couch,
There's
it's
someone,
very easy to say, I can do that tomorrow. But if someone is waiting for you, then you will get up and going. So so for many reasons, it's a good thing. So
yeah, I kind of get your idea where, because you're anonymous, it's kind of tricky, supposed to make the data anonymous if you want to get the nearby help.
Yeah, you cannot do that.
I mean, maybe you can. I mean, like, you don't have to know the person who is working the name. You don't have to know about anything.
But the thing is that if you are going to meet, you also kind of want to make sure that this is the person that he says he is, and so on. So there's some other things that this app is working on, and so on. It's a matter of trust.
Yeah, I mean, imagine this. Regarding the trust, I have kind of thought that, how come Airbnb convinced to share your apartment to a total stranger?
That is also pretty amazing.
How they convince, and it works.
Yeah,
people are trusting.
Yeah.
I suppose because they have a system to actually get rid of bad users.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they have star ratings, they have comments, and if you're a bit of the moron, whatever, you are a dangerous person, you get what you deserve. There is a joke about this. I heard recently. I think it's gonna be funny. Listen. Do you know there is a new restaurant in town called Karma? There is no menu. You get what you deserve.
That's right.
That's cool. I mean, I would love GPS idea. I mean, maybe there are some issues, but I think you will love it too. I can tell. It's just there is some issues you need to solve, I suppose. But all right. So just two more questions or so about before we go. So, do you have any recommendations for our listeners? Reads, books, just your personal recommendations on something. Maybe you're watching something cool or reading something cool.
Well,
or you're just working and just have something to read.
I read George Orwell, 1984, and it is an absolutely amazing book. It is also really, really scary, and there is some torture scenes that I think you should skip because they are really, really bad.
Too much detail, right?
But I did read it for many, many years ago, but I kind of forgot it. But now I read it again, and it's it's really scary. That would be, I don't know if that was a good recommendation. My favorite books are Dostoevsky. I'm crazy about some of the Russian writers there, but then it's they are really, really long, so you need kind of a 30-hour break if you want to do it in one take. So it's but they are good to have on your list. So
cool. So do you use any apps like Be My Eyes, like Seeing AI and stuff? What do you use yourself? Like, do you have any smartphone apps that you use daily? Like, for example, do you use OCR apps?
I do sometimes, not that much. No, not that much. I can zoom in a little, and that's good enough for me. You see, I have 1 degree vision left. But what I see fairly good. So as long as I have the time and I can, I do the most of my work on my iPhone, and I can read the text there. I'm a little slow reading because I need to move my eyes around all the time, but I get by. So I'm starting to turn on voiceover more and more, because I know that my vision is disappearing within the next I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, that's kind of sad. Knowing that it's going in worse and worse.
But I would say that because I know so many blind people and low vision people, I have met so many people who live a wonderful life even though they are blind. Of course, I'm not looking forward to that, but I'm not super scared either. I know it will be a challenge, and I need to learn new tricks, and that can be difficult when you are maybe 65 years old or something. But it's super comforting for me to know that other people that I know has done this before, and that's also my recommendation. If you run into low vision, or get involved in your local blind community, and get to know someone else who is in the same situation. That is super important, because you can kind of get things in the right perspective, and you can get solutions to some of the super simple, easy things to do, and the small tricks that gets you. I mean, you can use Be My Eyes for a lot of things, but you need to have your cooking skills in place and so on, if you are living alone, and that's what you are learning from other blind and low vision people, more than from any instructor or anything like that. So and that's also one of the dreams I have for Be My Eyes, is that we can kind of be a cross education hub for blind people. There's no reason why a blind person in the US couldn't be taught something from a blind person with 20 years of experience in Tanzania, or the other way around. When we are all online, we can teach each other, and it doesn't matter where on the globe you're living. And I hope that we can at some point we get the resources to kind of make that into a systematic thing where you can say, okay, I would like to start learning Braille, and then you just press that button, and then 20 blind people will say, okay, I can help you with that, or something like that. That would be super cool, and yeah, I hope we can do that one day.
Yeah, kind of open source / free education. And it makes sense what you're saying, because if you're going blind or whatever, you have ideas that some of them are of course valid, but some of them are invalid just because you don't know anything about it. And that's why blind or visually impaired individual would help you. I think it's an interesting thing, like create a service where other blind or visually impaired people are willing to help maybe someone who got blind recently or who have some bad news.
Yeah,
that would be the best help you can get, actually, because no one can teach you other than blind.
Exactly.
I was thinking, for example, who is the best to give you training with computers? Blind users themselves. I mean, yes, you can learn it if you're a sighted person, but you never know the entire experience. And
also especially when you kind of you go to your eye doctor and they kind of give you the information that, okay, you have this disease and it's really, really bad. Have a nice day, and then you go home, and then you are on your own, and that is terrible sometimes, that they leave people in this position, or they give them the number to the local blindness organization, but they are far from ready to that. And what you really need is someone who has been there to talk to, and if we can make that a possible option within Be My Eyes, that would be absolutely wonderful. So we can kind of help people from going down a black hole, because there's no need for that.
That's a wonderful idea. Right. So, do you have anything else to say before we go?
Well, I think,
anything
to be honest, I think we have been talking a long time.
Oh, yes.
But it's been wonderful.
You said everything you want, right?
So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We talked and covered many areas, and I really thank you for your service. As
you're so welcome, and thank you for making this podcast. It's absolutely now, one thing we could talk a little bit about.
Sure.
Clubhouse. Have you experienced?
Oh yes. Clubhouse? I don't have an invitation. I would love to get there.
I can send you an invitation.
Lovely. That's good news for me.
Yeah. I think it is. You see, this is early days, but I have been on Clubhouse for the last week. It's kind of addictive, so be careful. But it is also super, super interesting, and you should always almost think that it was made for blind people, because there's no video. It is only audio, and you can imagine yourself being in a hallway. And there is 100 doors, and on the door there is a sign that says what the subject and who is in this room. And then you can just go in and listen. And if you have something to say, you can raise your hand. And then if the moderator gives you the permission, you can talk. And the funny thing is, in many rooms, there are maybe hundreds of people, and then you will most likely just listen to what they are saying, the moderator and some of the guests that they have invited. But there's also a bunch of rooms where there are maybe 5 or 10 people, and then you get into a group conversation, and there's quite a few blind people on Clubhouse, and this is super interesting.
Lovely.
I don't really know what to think, but I think it's really, really interesting. And you can spend, I can tell you can spend a lot of time there, because it's people are so nice, and the conversations are interesting, and you get to know people from other parts of the world, and I'm really fascinated about this, and I hope it kind of spreads on. Also, especially now when we are home and alone, and suddenly you can have someone to actually talk to all day long if you want. So that's also kind of a fascinating part of this.
I love that idea. Clubhouse is very accessible for blind,
Yeah.
Not only that, because it has no video, but you don't losing anything. You can be as active, like you can be fully participating, because it's audio only. So you don't have to look at something. You don't have to see something. You just listen.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's it's just accessible way to communicate for blind. I often use Messenger voice messages to talk with my friends just because it's easier, and you can convey emotions, and you could, it's amazing. And for example, one thing I thought when you said small communities, I think it's way easier to communicate in small communities, right?
It is,
10
yeah.
people, you can share so much with 10 people. It's too difficult to do it with 50.
Yeah.
But 10, it's just about manageable,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
think
have been in rooms with 3 and 4 and 5 people, and then it is just like having friends for coffee. You're sitting there and talking, and you don't have to have a moderator or anything. You just kind of be a little polite, and then when somebody stops talking, the next one can jump in, and so on, and it works perfectly. People are really, really nice to each other. That's also pretty amazing, because when you sometimes on Facebook and Twitter, and it can be pretty ugly sometimes, but I haven't experienced that at all in Clubhouse, because people seem to behave themselves really good, and be short and precise, and say, I'm done talking, and then the next one can begin, and so it's really it's pretty amazing, I think, so that's
it's another
interesting.
social media.
You need to have, as of today, at least, we are in the beginning of March. It's only iPhone right now. But I have heard that they will shortly be available on Android as well. But look out for that if you are an Android user.
Yeah, I think, of course, Android is a big thing. It would be strange for them not to do it. I heard that myself as well, that they are doing it.
If you're looking at worldwide, I think 80 or 85% of the smartphones are Android phones. So I'm pretty sure they will. They would like to have. And I have been talking to people in South Africa and China, and it is all over the world. And you can have, there's also a bunch of rooms where they speak Danish and Swedish, and so you can anyone who is on Clubhouse can make their own room, and that will be kind of, the room will be visible, and then people can jump in, and you can start talking to them. So it's a super interesting concept. So I'm following it closely.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. It's like you can meet so many people. That's the coolest bit, right? And it's a bit, it's not as scary because nobody have to see you, because sometimes it could be, intimidating a little bit, So it's kind of cool. I think, as you said, there's going to be many blind communities, and once you have a question, you can join the room you usually like to join, and ask someone and just leave, some experts and stuff like that. So
I cannot really explain how the rooms and the clubs are working, but the clubs are kind of a group, and then under that group you can have different rooms and so on. But I'm not able to explain exactly. But there is one club that's called 15%, and that is meant for those 15% of the population who have some kind of disability. So already there you can find a lot of blind people and like-minded people, and so that's also really, really interesting. And then if you are interested in Bitcoin, you can find a group for that, and cooking and singing, Bitcoin. And I don't know what. So yeah, anything.
Yeah, it's just a social it's another social media type, right?
It is, yeah.
Facebook is pictures, Instagram is pictures, and Clubhouse is audio. So it's just another medium, I suppose.
But it's the interesting thing for me is that this is kind of like radio, but you can ask the host anytime, and you can kind of get into the discussion. So, and that is just a interesting way of listening. It's a whole different way of listening, because you know that if you raise your hand, you can kind of ask the person a question, or you can say, I have this experience, and so on. And of course, the smaller the group is, the easier it is to kind of be heard. But I have just to try. Also in bigger groups where I thought I had something relevant to say, raised my hand and got into the queue. And so it's it's interesting. So enough about Club.
We'll see.
But try it out.
Yeah. It will be good. Definitely. I'm curious to join and see what happens, Right. Well, we talked about a lot. I'm going to say thanks one more time for coming.
Thank you so much.
Great service for our community. And I'm looking forward to seeing more volunteers, more users, and because, in my opinion, you are fulfilling one area, not only for volunteers, but also for education. So you're teaching sighted people about that. It's just automatically happening because, when you help, you have to learn and you have to know how it works,
I know for sure that many of our volunteers have their first interaction with a blind person. And if you don't know a blind person, you would most likely not get into their kitchen for good reasons. But now suddenly you are in the kitchen with this person, or looking at the washing machine or something like that, and you. Maybe it's super short, but you get this feeling of, whoa, this is not easy if you cannot see. And then suddenly you look at your own washing machine with whole new eyes, and think this cannot be right. We need to do something about it. So I think we get a lot of advocates for our cause out there by new volunteers who are speaking the same language as we are. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for those who didn't try Be My Eyes, please do. It doesn't cost anything. It's a bit scary, I suppose, but as Hans said, people are not afraid a second time or a third time. And it's just a great community overall. So yeah, thank you one more time.
Thank you.
So that's that, folks. That's the lengthy interview. I think it's nearly 2 hours. I haven't checked the exact time, but yeah, that's a longer one. That's for damn sure. But that's on purpose, because, my goal is to capture interesting content. And to do that, it takes time, because I want to cover different topics and I want to get the knowledge out of the person. When we are talking with interesting people like Hans himself, I want to get the content from A to Z. And that takes time, as I said, and that's what I want with this podcast. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you did, please do share it. I'm encouraging you to do that because it helps this podcast, More people are listening, the better it is for you. Just the idea of this podcast needs to be spread. We'll get there sooner or later. So join the train, please. So, as I always say, don't forget to visit techvp.net for more.